Now Booker's going to go to the line. And now a technical foul has been called.
Or on Devin Booker?
Yes.
So let me say what we're all thinking. This was not a good technical foul. The refs are always worried about fights starting when one player tosses the ball to an opponent after a whistle, like we saw with Desmond Bane on 2 separate plays this year that very clearly threatened to start all manner of fisticuffs. But because the whistle blew so close to Booker throwing the ball, and he wasn't facing Williams, this was most likely him trying to save it just in case the foul wasn't called. Now, did Caruso tell the refs to call the tech? Sure, but players are always trying to point out calls on a near constant basis. Let's look back at another instance where a player tossed the ball at his opponent. Our old friend SGA got fouled just like Booker, and he fires the ball off Jokic's shoulder. Jokic advocates for the tech. The referee agrees, rightfully so, and look who's on the court with him. The very same ref who felt the same way about Booker's play. So it's not surprising he had this on his mind when calling it last night. If Suns fans want to point to this as Exhibit A for how they were completely wronged in Game 2, then Exhibit B is that the NBA rescinded the technical foul the next day, rightfully so. Now, they fined Booker for lighting up the refs in his post-game press conference.
11 years I haven't called a ref out by name, but James was terrible tonight, through and through. It's bad for the sport, bad for the integrity of the sport.
And when you say something like that, you know the fine is coming. The rules are expressly clear that you cannot do that, even if the league admits the call he was mad about was wrong. The players are still expected to behave professionally. After all, the refs don't get to come out publicly after the game and light Booker up for turning the ball over 5 times and posting a negative 12 plus minus. All this really means is we need to examine closely what really happened to see if their anger and anxiety are justified. First, we've got a Booker post up before he shot fakes and shoots a jump shot. The contact to Caruso's face from Booker's elbow is not in dispute. We can clearly see it happening here. However, it doesn't have to be an offensive if Caruso has A to B movement into Booker's space. During the challenge, we can see in the replay that Caruso stops his movement towards Booker a second before contact occurs, meaning he's in legal guarding position. It's on Booker to avoid elbowing him in the face. The mistake made is the explanation.
It has been determined that the defender, Caruso, stops short of contact, and then Booker makes an unnatural move into his face.
This is a natural move by Booker to shoot the ball, so Williams should not have used the word unnatural, but it doesn't exonerate Booker from the call. On the very next play, SGA is doing a completely different thing, driving to the hoop, and straightens his arms to swing up underneath the defender's arm where significant contact is made. Gillespie is not in legal guarding position, nor is his arm vertical when contact occurs. But we can see Booker's complaint is most likely rooted in the previous explanation during the challenge. And I think he wants the ref to ignore the contact because he thinks it was also unnatural. The word unnatural only applies to potential offensive fouls when an offensive player overtly and abruptly initiates contact. SGA is certainly allowed to swing the ball up as close or as far from his body as he likes, and if the defender isn't in legal guarding position, it's a shooting foul. Many folks wanted to connect these two plays when there shouldn't have been a connection. The play they should be comparing the Booker foul to is this one, where Chet gets his defender up in the air and jumps into him to draw the foul. Remember, Caruso stopped his directional movement towards Booker with a jump stop just before contact, but Gillespie is in the air and drifting towards Chet. And this is the kind of foul drawing we've seen for decade upon decade in the NBA with nobody having a problem with it. The offensive player cannot launch himself into the defender in an abnormal manner, and it just doesn't look that way here. He's drawing contact, which then spins him more to make it look messier than it really was, and no one on the court had much of a problem with the call when it was made. Now let's address the other elephant in the room, the accusations that SGA gets a favorable whistle. After shooting 17 free throws in Game 1, I can totally see why Suns fans would be upset, and it would feel like you need only breathe on him to get a foul called on you. But in Game 2, there were plenty of examples where SGA could have easily gotten a foul called for him and the refs passed. On this post-up, he gets Green up in the air and we can see quite a bit of contact from Green. And normally when a defender gets caught leaving their feet, they get punished. Here's another drive where Gillespie should get a ton of credit for being in legal guarding position, directly in the path and square to SGA. So contact here is legal and the referees correctly don't blow the whistle. On another spin move, SGA rises up to shoot and Green's arm whacks him across the left arm. Plenty of contact to merit a whistle, but the refs lay off and Gilgeous-Alexander turns this into a beauty of a double pump soft off the glass. Instead of complaining, he's skipping. There is plenty of handsiness going on in the high post, and then on the switch out top, we've got some hugging. But this is the playoffs, and they're letting everyone be physical. The problem is, the reach in here causes illegal contact and leads to a turnover, and the refs would be graded poorly on this play. While there are folks that feel justified in saying SGA gets away with murder on the offensive end, let's look at how often the Suns are getting away with things as well. Not to justify illegal play, but to make the point that things tend to even out in the long run. The first play of the game for the Suns saw Colin Gillespie pretty egregiously clear out Chet with that left arm before rising up from the midi, and here he lowers his shoulder to initiate contact and adds a little chicken wing in there as well before fading for another tough playoff shot. This one was a little too much for me, as Royce O'Neal veers unnaturally into AJ Mitchell, lowers his left shoulder, adds a push off as well, and I suspect the refs will get graded poorly for letting this action go, as it directly leads to an alley-oop bucket for Maluach. And as companion pieces to some of the lighter calls SGA will draw, we've got Booker doing the classic quick pull that everyone hates SGA for, but correctly not being rewarded with free throws since he hadn't started his upward motion before the contact. This pull-up by Green seems a little light on the contact as well, but the lead ref detected this left knee contact to Caruso's midsection and he got free throws. Booker himself benefited from even less contact as Hartenstein contests in the air, avoids a landing space foul, but because Booker is kicking out his leg to maintain balance on a fadeaway, his right foot contacts Hartenstein's left knee a little. Something tells me if this were SGA getting this call, folks would be losing their minds. There are some other calls we can clear up in case there's still some lingering issues. Both Booker and Caruso start sprinting down the court when Booker veers into Caruso's path. That can happen, no biggie, but you can see Booker grab Caruso's jersey and pull it pretty hard. There's also this strange swim move over the top of Caruso's head with his left arm that indicates something is wrong, and James Williams blows the whistle. After the initial reaction, it feels like Booker realizes it was a clear-cut foul. This one was interesting, as Suns fans thought Hartenstein totally flopped, but this is what happens when fans let their passion get the best of them. This is essentially a moving screen, and Maluach has Hartenstein's left shoulder clamped and is freight training him down the lane, preventing Hartenstein from stepping up to the driver to help. Let's make one thing clear. I'm not here to invalidate all the non-OKC fans' feelings and opinions. It would be foolish to ignore the very vocal critics of how the game is being played and officiated. I totally get it. For instance, this Chet flop was egregious and also out of character for him. Watch his left hand grab Iguodaro's left arm and then yank it down as he pretends to get shot by a sniper. Unfortunately, the refs fell for this one too, and Chet deserved to be called out for this nonsense. In some juicy irony, the move that everyone hates from SGA where he quick pulls into a defender was used by none other than Devin Booker late in the game to get 2 free throws. So my point is that both teams are playing to maximize their advantages over the refs, and sometimes the refs make mistakes. It's part of the game. But I at least want to make clear why the Suns lost this game. They turned it over 21 times that led to 22 points for the Thunder. And these are the most basic of mistakes they're making that you simply cannot afford to do against a team as good and opportunistic as the OKC is. Booker is shooting okay from the field, but as their leader, he has to adjust to how quick and strong his defenders are and stop turning the ball over like this, which he then compounded by committing an offensive foul when he impeded Williams' progress after the loose ball. He'd also be wise to cut down on the complaining, even though that tech was rescinded, since there are instances like this where the ball is cleanly deflected out of bounds, no foul whatsoever, yet he gets in the referee's face, probably more due to the frustration of the score than anything else. I've got a whole other video prepped to focus more on SGA's play and how he has radically changed the way he drives, perhaps because of all the criticism. So stay tuned because I guarantee it'll be worth watching. And in the meantime, I don't think the Suns have much hope of getting by the Thunder, and they'll be lucky if they can eke out one win in the series. The Thunder are just too much of everything. And there's no shame in losing to the deepest team in the league, playing defense exactly the way any good defensive coach would teach and demand. It's almost like all this frustration that's pouring out is a result of how good they are at defense. It's how they know they're doing it right.
O'Neal taken away, Caruso. He'll take it all the way for 2.